A top AEW star has revealed their feelings ahead of their big return, and Jon Moxley reveals his frustrations with AEW. But first, WWE is set to introduce a brand new championship belt after WrestleMania 39, with it set to replace one of, if not both, of the two titles that make up the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Of course, right now, Roman Reigns holds both the Universal and WWE Championships, belts that he would defend this Sunday night against Cody Rhodes in the main event of WrestleMania. According to WrestleVotes via Give Me Sport, WWE Chief Content Officer Triple H has approved the new belt design, with them noting, "There's a new belt. I don't know for sure if it's getting a new name. I don't know if one of the titles is going away, but there's a new belt that WWE has had made and the decision makers have approved. Like if they wanted to introduce it on TV tomorrow, they could. Those boxes are checked." There has been photos of a custom Cody Rhodes belt online that many have assumed is the new design. However, this appears not to be the case, as Cody himself has posted photos of it on his own social media accounts, something that he of course wouldn't do before WrestleMania. That belt appears to be a gift from people that work at the Nightmare Factory Wrestling School, as shown by this image. Now let's move on to Jon Moxley's response to CM Punk's recent Instagram post, which once again got the internet talking about the future of the straight-edge superstar. Punk would attempt to debunk a report from Dave Meltzer that claimed that he was uncooperative in the lead up to the AEW World Championship match with Jon Moxley on August 24th edition of Dynamite, with him claiming that his reluctancy to do the match was down to not being cleared to wrestle at the time. Punk would then claim that it was Moxley that was being uncooperative, stating that he refused to lose to him, leading to two matches taking place instead of one. Well, Mox would take to Renee Paquette's The Sessions podcast this morning, where he would discuss his side of the story. Whilst he wouldn't address all of the post, Jon would reveal that he wasn't even under AEW contract at the time and said, "I will say this, I'm going to give you a tidbit of information from my point of view. The entire summer I was not under contract, no contract, free agent. I was at SummerSlam weekend wrestling El Desperado. I could have walked into SummerSlam that night with the AEW belt had I been so inclined. Nobody knew that because I don't put my shit out there in the world and let everybody know everything about my business. I was not under contract, the reason being, if you're curious, because I got out of rehab, my contract was up, they extended it for the time that I missed, cool. I'm glad they did because I didn't want to feel like I owed them anything. They extended it was coming up, they were talking to me about it. The last thing I wanted to do when I first got out of rehab, because all they were telling me was logic would tell you, don't go back to wrestling because you're going to fall into the same old habits. I wanted to ease back into it and see what life was like on the other side." Regarding claims that he refused to lose to Punk, whilst Moxley didn't directly confirm this to be true, he would suggest that he was lucky that he was even in the room to talk ideas at the time, a suggestion that he used his contract status as leverage to push for a decision, and Mox would add, "That being said, during this period of time, the night CM Punk is talking about in Minneapolis, the night he came back and was hopping around on one foot, bumping around Jericho Appreciation Society after me and Chris Jericho wrestled. We're talking later about that stuff. Keep in mind, at this time, this is my whole point. I basically don't work there for all intents and purposes. Tony is not my boss. I don't have to be in this room. I don't have to do this. Even me being in this room and offering and agreeing to a storyline that puts you over at the pay-per-view, I'm bending over backwards for Tony Khan and for this dude and the company and everybody. I didn't have to. If anything, I was bending over backwards. That's it. It's not even controversial." We do have another story from the Jon Moxley interview later in the video, but I've decided to break it up a little bit. So next, let's get to an injury update concerning another AEW roster member. The Young Bucks would seemingly be written off of television this past Wednesday on Dynamite, this after an attack that took place prior to the show. This would lead to the brothers being driven away from the building in ambulances, joined by former Elite stablemate Hangman Page. Well, according to Brian Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Radio, Matt Jackson is currently suffering from a partially torn tricep, which was sustained early on in the March 15th Trios title match between the Elite, the Jericho Appreciation Society, and the House of Black. Dave Meltzer would then chime in and add that Matt has chosen not to undergo surgery, choosing instead to let it heal naturally, and he would note, "What I heard is that he opted to not get surgery, so he's hopeful of being back quicker. Surgery, you're probably looking at 7 months. The deal that they did on last week's show with the ambulance and everything, we all thought it was this brilliant show-long storyline and it worked, but the reason they did it was to cover for Matt being gone for a while." I don't think Matt was shown on television on Wednesday, with his ambulance already being shut when the cameras cut to backstage. This before Nick Jackson was shown being loaded into a separate vehicle. This appears to suggest that Matt wasn't actually at the show due to the aforementioned injury. And speaking of injuries, Adam Cole is finally set to return to the ring this Wednesday on Dynamite, with his road to recovery then being spotlighted during the new AEW All Access documentary series that will debut after the show. Cole has been out with a concussion since the Forbidden Door show last summer and would reveal his feelings ahead of the big comeback this week during an interview with Pop Break, and Cole would note, "The fact that I'm going to be able to get back into the ring is going to be an emotional day." Again, there was a long period that Britt Baker will tell you this, when there was a real scare and a real fear that I was done and that I wasn't going to be able to wrestle again. I hate even thinking about that being an option, but it was, and it was very real, and some of that is covered in the show. I could not be more elated and excited to get back into the ring. It's my dream. This is all I've ever wanted to do since I was 9, and I am very proud of the career that I've had. But in a lot of ways, I haven't even hit my prime yet, in my opinion. I feel as if I have another 10-15 more years in the ring. I'm very thankful that I have been given this second chance in a lot of different ways. And before we continue, why not drop a like down below if you're enjoying the video, and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss the latest wrestling news, as we try to reach 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. But with that said, let's get to the next story. Now let's get back to the Jon Moxley interview on the Sessions podcast, where he would reveal his frustrations with drama in All Elite Wrestling. Whilst broaching the topic of CM Punk, Moxley would reveal that the Punk situation isn't the only drama backstage, noting that he's never seen anything like it during his days on the Indies or in WWE, and Mox would note, "I will say this, and I hate to say it because I don't think I've ever said anything even remotely negative about AEW, but I will say this as an observer. I spent 8 years on the Indies, a couple years in WWE developmental, 8 years in WWE. I have never seen so much bullshit drama in one place in my entire life. I hate to say that. I don't know if it's the age of social media, shit gets blown out of proportion. One person types one stupid drunk tweet and all of a sudden it's all anyone wants to talk about. Let me be clear, the vast majority of people there don't cause any bullshit, but they're getting sucked down into this shit like everybody else into the muck. There are plenty of people who just want to get better and perform and just do this job. I'm not an official coach. I don't ever want to be a producer, an official producer. I don't want to wear a headset and write stuff down. I like being a coach, but I'm not an official coach. I can coach people that I think are worth it. I'll give time to anybody." As for positives, Moxley would say that all the talk of drama in the company overshadows all of the positives going on right now, specifically mentioning the El Hijo del Vikingo versus Kenny Omega match, as well as putting over the potential of current AEW star and former UFC fighter Marina Shafir, whose talent he noticed during the GCW Bloodsport event. And before you go, make sure you check out the 10 hottest free agents this WrestleMania.